So in case you have no idea who I am, this will give you a little introduction, right? I am a creative director, so @RelayRoom is our Twitter hashtag for all you Twitter people. I went from being all of these, I guess, convicted hipster as well, to a type designer, right? It's something I've always wanted to do and learn, and this is the story. So today I am presenting the story of Arrow, right? So yeah, another hipster logo here. And it's really the story of this typeface and the lessons that it taught me. I didn't want to come up here and share the usual designer talk, I am the creative director, bask in my awesomeness talk, but to sort of at least make it worth everybody's time and share specific lessons that I thought were relevant. So, oops. Right, so Arrow is a typeface that I designed at Taipei Cooper. Right, it's designed with American coffee, lots of it, Singaporean precision, Belgian flair, I'm half Belgian, and French instruction. I had a French instructor, so his favorite words were, "Show me what are you doing?" And that was like sort of the rallying cry for the course. It flies straight and true. Sorry, this is my marketing spiel. It does more than Singapore Airlines does, which had to stop halfway in Frankfurt and took 22 hours to reach New York. Never again. So this is, okay, you can tell I'm long-winded. So this is the story. So this is Cooper Union. Okay, obviously it doesn't look like this, but I couldn't find a good picture, so I thought the old ones were better. I have something for nostalgia. And it contains all the information you really need to know, right? So on the 5th floor was where we were. The toilet is on the other end, right? The proof that I was in the States, there's American flag flying somewhere, and the Starbucks, yeah, very important. Okay, there we are. So this is what we were given on the first day, oops, right? Which is a calligraphy model, right? We were told to knuckle down, take out your pens, and start copying this. Now I like to say this is my example, but in truth, this is what it looked like, which is not so nice. It was my second time doing calligraphy. The first time was like 10 years ago. And it was painful, rough and painful. The good news is that in spite of it looking quite terrible in my eyes, you get a chance to redeem yourselves because you cut up the letters, the ones that are really nice, and you blow them up really large, which actually makes you feel worse because you really see all the flaws. Right? And this process is basically how we began to start designing type. This is the aforementioned French instructor, Jean-François Porcher, sort of, laying it down, as it were. And the process basically involves sort of taking sort of A6 size tracing papers, putting them over your big, like blown up scans of your typeface or your calligraphy, and then tracing over them and making decisions about whether or not there should be serifs, what the serif should look like. For those uninitiated, this is a serif, the little feet. So yeah, and this was the first two letters I produced. You sort of start with N and P because then you can sort of decide the width of the typeface with the N. And you have a P which will decide your descender and what sort of bowl you have. So this part, sorry, there is no laser pointer on this thing, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Which brings me to my first point, right? Which is explore a different way of working, and the results might surprise you. I think oftentimes, oops, oh there we are. Oftentimes in Singapore, at least I know for my industry, everything was yesterday. We wanted it yesterday, and the computer is the easiest, well, maybe not the easiest, but definitely the fastest way to get things done. It does make us very sanitized, and I know this is sort of a cliche thing, but Prior to this, I had never done typeface design like this. I had always sort of approached it, well, okay, I have the program, I can kind of draw in Illustrator or FontLab, and I will try and do it. And this was a completely different approach for me, and it was very, very interesting. So I was very surprised because the exercise was to put up our 2 letters on the wall, and the moment I put them up, I realized there was so many things wrong with them. The forms are too thick, the sender was too long, you know, yada, yada, yada. But it was a very, very interesting first time sort of entry into type design. Turns out that when you do it this way, you really have to keep drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing the letters over and over again. And this is one of the earlier process shots. You stick them up on the wall, you stand as far away as you can get in a small room, and you look at your letters very, very objectively, and you sort of go, okay, there's too much weight, it's too fat, it needs to be shorter, it needs to be narrower, it needs to be, there's a gazillion things. I have a stack that's about this high of drawings that I brought home, and they're all, well, of this. This is the final character set that I did, which is before I went to sort of put it into a digital program. So REGSURNFAGOPYET. This word, which I made up, it says Rugsunfagyopiet. Sorry, it's not really Russian, but it's Imagine Russian. Really means, it's worth the effort. Because it was a long time. I think at this stage when I had done all those letters, it had taken us about 1.5 weeks of 12 hours each day just drawing type non-stop. There was lunch, but it wasn't really long. So this brings me to my second point. Stand back and examine closer, which is kind of an oxymoron, and a new perspective awaits you. So for me, learning that, you know, I couldn't sort of just look at the letters like this, and I had to stand and look at them from afar and really judge them at that distance and at small sizes was sort of interesting for me. You need to stand back, but you also need to examine closer. Type design is such a detailed craft, like you're making millimeters in increments for something that's going to be used at 10 points. It's really interesting. And it's also, interestingly enough, this marriage of optics and maths. So you're really being very precise, but then you sort of throw it all away the moment you start looking at it. And a great example of this is this historical design called Romain du Roi. It's a typeface that was designed for one of the French kings. And it, as you can see, it was designed according to a grid. I have nothing against grids, but bear with me. And these were the full set. They had a capital letters and the lowercase letters. There were a couple of problems with Romain du Roi, right? So it was designed by committee, which is never a good thing, right? There was, the king literally appointed a committee of guys, artistic guys, to sort of sit down and decide what the typeface was going to be. And there was this over-obsession with perfection, which I think was from the period then. They wanted to make it perfect. It was for royalty, and the king was going to use it exclusively for his royal press. And so everything, like you saw, was aligned to a grid, right? So the third problem, which I didn't mention, was it had a client. No. The real problem was that the letters had no soul, right? They were so constructed, they were so carefully arranged that they lost any sort of character whatsoever. And in fact, when they made it into an actual working typeface, right, with metal type, the guy who cut it actually sort of disregarded a lot of the drawings and did his own thing because he felt that it was too geometric and it felt too hard. That's the third point, which is, well, you should strive for perfection, right? And you know, but you can't be hampered by it, right? So this was really sort of, you know, working for 1.5, 2 weeks on just drawing like alphabets, you know, was really, really painful. You know, you kept doing them, and then the instructors will come, no, it's not good enough. You have to, you know, add more weight and this and that. And I was like, but I spent 2 hours on that G, and no, it's just not good enough. You have to do it again. Oops. There we go. So it's a long process. These are 4 A's. I think it's pretty obvious which one is the final one, but for the purposes of everybody, I will highlight. So the first three on the left are variations of the same thing. They were like an earlier version of an A that I had designed. And what makes them all different is basically where it joins, where the bowl of the A joins back into the stem, as it were. And I think the second one was the one that I originally put up, and it was rejected. They said it was too hard for the rest of my typeface. And so I had to keep working on it. And I will tell you, probably from between the first to the last, and all the other ones in between, was about 4 days on an A. This is one of my many pieces of paper that you print out your typeface on, and your instructors go through it with a fine-tooth comb and really kind of wreck your hopes about, that you're gonna get it done. It's like, this has to be changed, that has to be changed, this is too thick, that's too thin. And then you started wondering whether it was the printer's fault, because it wasn't a very good printer. It's like, but it's it's a HP. It's not really, the resolution's not very good. It's not my drawings, I swear. But yeah, they would make you do it again and again. And it's interesting because you would be looking at individual letters, but what you really needed to do as well was to look at it as a whole, right? You're not designing a letter, you're designing a typeface. Right, which is another lesson that I learned, which is draw in context, right? One letter is no letter, right? And every letter needs context. This is not my quote. This is a quote by Eric van Blokland, which is a Dutch type designer who came and visited us and gave us critique. And it was very, very interesting because, you have 26 different alphabets and they all look different, but they need to be part of the same extended, family with first and second cousins, and they all somehow need to look alike somehow. And I think this point particular has a lot of resonance for regular design work. When you're designing in a context, you're never designing in a vacuum. You are designing for a client or your specific situation. And I think, strangely enough, it also applies to typography as well. Speaking of context, this is a great example of it. So on the left, the G in black is the G that you will find in the typeface. The G in white is the one that I designed and I kept for about 4.5 weeks. And come the third week onwards, every instructor that I talked to and every guest critique that I showed my work to kept saying that spur on the G, the one right there at the bottom, is irritating. You should get rid of it. And I'm like, but I like it. And they're like, no, get rid of it. And I'm like, but I'm gonna keep it, right? I was stubborn, I'm gonna keep it. And I think about like 2 days before our final presentation, it kind of dawned on me, I have to lose it. And I was like, oh, drat. I spent so much time, making it look nice and, adjusting that spur so that it would look great, and I had to lose it. So what I've done is, as a consolation, I've kept it as an alternate character in the glyph set. So again, like the whole thing about context, seeing the G on its own and go, ooh, that's nice, and everybody likes it. But then when you see it as, like in text, it changes completely. I also designed for fun, and I think just to sort of make it more entertaining for myself, a bunch of dingbats, which are at the bottom. So yeah, just random aside. So this is the part where I guess I do show the work itself and show a bit of the design. So this is arrow, right? It has a low contrast, so meaning that between the thick part, which is on the left, and the thinnest part, which is the sort of the curve there isn't a lot of difference. There isn't a big variation between the thickness of those strokes, right? That's what we call low contrast, as opposed to, I guess, maybe the typeface you use for Elle magazine on the cover. It has an oblique axis, right? Sort of a slanted axis, and this is because we used a broad lip pen, or fountain pen to everybody else, I guess, which has, you write at a 45 or 30-degree angle, and it produces these sort of forms for you, and then there is a sort of a stress, which I'm going to put this down in case I flick it, but basically, I can't reach, so it's this line, for instance, these are the thin parts, and this is the sort of corresponding thick parts, right? And then, so the parts in blue are the counter space. I'm showing how they relate to one another. They have to sort of, they don't have to look the same, but they need to be similar in size and in weight. Serifs, yeah, so on the topic of making up your own language, I did not make up. I found this in a type specimen book in a library in New York, serifs, which is serifs. Does it have serif? Oh, not again. Yes, it does. Heck yes. Sorry. I don't hope there are no Scandinavian people here. And so these are all the sort of endings that I put on the typeface. So there are sort of your regular serifs here, sort of terminal ending on the E and the C, and ones on the K. Oh, drat, I'm really sorry. This sort of shows how high the X height is. So when we talk about X height, we're talking about how high the lowercase letters are as opposed to the uppercase. And so it's a large X height with short ascenders. That's slightly wider, unlike me, the typeface. Sorry, I hope I'm not like sort of spieling jargon everywhere and everybody's sort of massively lost. You are designers, right? No, I'm just kidding. This is showing the color of the typeface. Sorry, these were like required slides for my presentation that I had to put in, and I felt it made sense to share it with you all as well. So text is from Wikipedia on arrows, but basically it sort of shows the color, overall color of the typeface when you read it, right? And this is the full character set that I designed at this 5-week program. So it has what we call lining figures, which are these, and old style figures or text figures as well. Those took forever to do. I think the dingbats were the like easiest thing and probably the funnest as well. Right, so in this 5 weeks, I guess it was really a journey of discovery and sort of, I felt a bit like national service. You didn't know how tired you were, but you still had to keep going. You know, there wasn't someone shouting, "Wake up your idea," but there was definitely, you know, like a lot of work involved. And there were 15 people in my class with 2 instructors, and you don't necessarily have the instructor by you all the time. There is a lot of sort of, you know, you making decisions in your own and trusting or hoping rather that they're going to be vindicated in the end. And it's really, for someone who never done this sort of thing before in this way, it was pretty scary. So I had to really learn to sort of believe in myself. But at the same time, the great thing about it was there were 14 other people, and that community of type geeks, as it were, definitely helped. You share, you know, it's the sort of Singaporean thing. If must suffer, then other people also suffer with me lah, ha ha ha. You know, and that sort of helps, right? In a way that, you know, you're not the only one doing this by yourself. Type design is a very lonely activity. But definitely when you do, you know, have that advice and what you learn, maybe, you know, you can share it with somebody else. This is a picture, sorry, it's like the first color photo in the whole presentation of one of the sessions. This is not my classroom, unfortunately. I wish it was this beautiful. This is actually someone's apartment in New York. Beautiful apartment, because I think her boyfriend was an investment banker. Now we know why. That's me on the right. And these are some of my classmates. And basically this was a Sunday afternoon, right, which we were not supposed to have school, but everybody had so much work to finish that we were holed up in someone's house sort of doing type design. Yeah, food always helps too. I know, like, this is my first reaction, like, oh, God, you're here. Yeah, it's like, I thought that was Steve Aoki. So this is what I've done so far for Arrow, which is a regular and a little bit of a black, right? I hope to sort of complete the family, as it were, and have a bold and matching italics, just as a start. I'm hoping, right? I shouldn't say I'm hoping, I should get it done by the end of the year, right? So look out for it. But in line with sort of sharing and sort of learning from each other, I wanted to take this opportunity to sort of kind of post a rallying cry for all type aficionados, which is a posh word for nerds, and you know, I'm gonna try and introduce this event called Type and Beer, which is inspired by similar events that happen in Berlin. There is a large community of type designers there, yeah, and you know, like, I guess if you have to talk about something that's terribly dry like beer, you have to wet it with, you have to talk about something dry like type, you have to wet it with beer. Right, so I'm hoping to do it every 3rd Tuesday of the month, right, 7:30 bar to be confirmed, I'm not sure, bar near you. If you like to sort of sign up, you can email or you can leave your name with Isyanti, who is one of my colleagues here with the clipboard, right. Yeah, thank you again for your time. I think, I hope I've not bored everybody stiff. And I guess now we have time for Q&A. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mark. So now we have time for about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A.
I have one more thing to say.
And one more thing to say.
Yeah. Actually, we brought some sort of paraphernalia to give away. So I have some posters with me to give away. So if you want them, come and look for us, like at this corner, I guess. Yep, there we go.
So on the topic of questions, if you have a question, just shout it out. I'll repeat it, and Mark will do his best to answer you in his witty and creative way.
Yes.
Since you started this fairly recently, and you're putting your heart and soul into something which a lot of people don't fall into.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see photography, say, in the next 3 to 5 years, or maybe within the Singapore context? Because if you're a pioneer, so-called pioneer Singapore, then you have a direction or vision of where it needs to go. What is your view, or what are your hopes that where you'll develop into, at least in the context within, say, the next 5 years?
Oh, okay. The microphone. I would really ideally like to see more people get involved. I think being a pioneer is great, but then, like if you're on the road by yourself for 6 months, it's kind of sad. And I really do miss the sort of camaraderie as you have it, from just having people who are interested in the same thing around you, alongside with you and doing it as well. And I think in general, okay, this is my personal opinion, so if there are any people from schools here, please forgive me. I think type is not well taught in Singapore at all. There's a really, I wouldn't say bad, but it's just not covered well enough. And I think, I'd really like to sort of see that grow, as it were. And I mean, this is sort of my little smidgen effort of starting it out and hoping to build a community through type and beer sessions. I hope it'll be equal amounts of type and beer, not more beer and less type. I do hope to sort of connect with other designers who are interested in that aspect, and I guess anybody who is, you might not necessarily need to be a designer, but you have an interest in typography. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
What do you secretly hope, for it to evolve into?
Well, we could have better road signs for a start. Yeah, it's in Rotis, which is not the most readable font in the world, and it's really bad when you drive. I guess, my personal vision is to kind of set up a foundry, right, which is a posh word for a website that sells fonts, and sort of, do my own typefaces and work with other people, to help them sell theirs, or, at least create some sort of something going in that aspect. Vision. Well, I think really that it could,